Turn to ban.
And we're back for game number 2 of this best of 3. Orange taking on LGD China, and it was all orange all the time in game number 1. I haven't seen a beating like that since I made a really bad pun about, euphemism about genitalia. And do I even need to make that joke, really? I mean, it's so obvious once you hear the first half of it. I haven't seen a beating like that. So we're just going to leave it at that and just say orange made it look easy in game number 1, and even that might be being a little bit too kind. And I'll tell you what was so impressive about it, too. And not to say that LGD didn't have their moments. They did. They had a couple of big turnarounds, but at one point in game 1, I brought up the gold graph and ticked off exactly where the biggest turnaround in the game was for LGD, and it barely registered because of how broad Orange's domination was in game number 1 from bell to bell. So, and that was just that kind of a game, and it's very easy to allow to happen, especially against a team like Orange, who I had talked about a bit based on their past performances and based on being up against a team like LGD. Orange had to get off to a good start, and LGD, during their drafted the team that really had the potential to just flat out run them over in the mid game if they weren't careful. But Orange really did a great job of counter drafting them, went with the CK pick that, I'll be honest, I was wrong about. I was suspect. I was really suspicious of that pick and wondering how it was going to pan out. They got a little bit of good luck whenever they were able to add a first blood in the offensive try lane very early on. And from there, they just never really looked back. So Orange showing some fearless Dota and rolling it up to a 1-0 lead here in this best of 3 LGD. Not quite in the same situation Orange is. This is really a make or break game for Orange. It's not to say that it's an elimination game yet, but if Orange does lose this series, they'll find themselves facing elimination if they can't beat LGD International in their next and last game here in this group of the G-1 Asia qualifiers. So they already dropped one series to Rattlesnake, so they are sitting at 0-1. LGD getting past their counterparts, LGD International. They're sitting at 1-0, so they can afford to lose a game. Orange really can't unless they want to find themselves with their backs against the wall very early on here in play in Phase 3. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about what we're seeing already. Orange going to go ahead and take out Lone Druid and the Shadow Demon. No real surprise there. I expect Lone Druid to, at least in the temporary near future, to become a first ban kind of a hero, just because of what we've been seeing out of so many teams. And this is just how, esports as a whole, but at Dota in particular, tends to work. Because you have trends, you have teams who maybe show you a slight variation on a theme. They'll take something like, everyone knows that Lone Druid can push really well early on. And I could say I was a little ahead of the curve, just a smidge on this one, because I had been saying in our D2L broadcast for some time that I really didn't like the Midas Radiance approach that a lot of Lone Druids take. I felt like it was really not capitalizing on that hero's potential in the later stages of the early game and on into the mid game. And what we've seen so far here in G1 is an almost complete attempt to ignore that kind of a build and instead go with a very stable, very solid armlet straight up to a Maelstrom kind of an approach. And it has seen a lot of success. I saw Lone Druid. I think I've seen Lone Druid lose twice, and probably a dozen times he's been picked. I'd have to look at the exact stats. Maybe it's exaggerated in my mind, but almost every time I see that hero picked up, and when he's built that way in particular, unless the team just dedicates all of their early game resources to shutting him down, to putting pressure on him, to ganking him out, and then rolling that up into the ability to exert their dominance and take map control by taking early towers and just not giving him the chance to split push like he usually wants to in order to get his standard resurgence of gold. Basically, a Lone Druid forces you to play that kind of game whether you want to or not, but not going to be the case now. Magnus will be the first pickup from Orange, and they certainly did a great job running him last time. Ohio showing a very dominant performance on Mag and a very clutch RP cancel at one point. If there was one request that I think was most constant from the viewership during the downtime between Game 1 and Game 2, it's that obviously I had to talk a little bit about that, and needs to be a highlight of that because it was pretty boss, not gonna lie. So Orange, that ain't broke, don't fix it, gonna pick up the not always magnanimous Magnosaurus as their first pick. That's gonna be followed up with two extremely strong picks in Nyx Assassin and Darkseer. Nyx Assassin and oh, I love those picks out of Orange. Oh, I love those picks. With Shadow Demon gone, but getting the Rubik and then adding the Leshrac, we saw just how deadly a Leshrac can be. And we see it all the time. A good Leshrac player is he can begin to feel just like this sniper sitting at the periphery of every fight, and every time you think something's going to go your way, boom, the ground beneath your feet explodes, and there's a Leshrac wearing a big old troll face just staring at you while he melts your team down with Pulse Nova and Edict. And I mean, and really the lineup that we're already seeing out of Orange, the mid-game potential and team fight potential out of a Magnus is always going to be there. Then you've got Rubik and Leshrac, two of the strongest, I should say, laners in the entire game. They can run safe lane, they can run long lane together. You can put them with a sort of mid-game centric carry like we saw Orange do in game 1, or you can go ahead and sit back and safely play them out of the defensive tri-lane, and then you can do stuff like smoke and attempt to gank mid at level 1, even level 1, but level 2, level 3, around 4 minutes, 5 minutes, very good opening to apply pressure with those two heroes to any lane you choose. Usually it will be mid if they're going to be running in the defensive tri-lane, but just really solid core draft so far out of Orange. LGD, very solid as well. Nyx Assassin can run mid, tend to see him in a tri-lane situation. Darkseer, same thing. You'll tend to see him in the off lane or in the jungle, but he can do a variety of other things, including running mid. Anti-Mage, though, kind of puts you in... I'll tell you what I don't like about this Anti-Mage pick from LGD. We've already seen in G1 a way that you can just hard counter that. And we saw that done by Zenith to Team DK. And I'm sure these teams do their homework. These are not two teams that are not going to watch the teams that they're competing with more than $50,000 in prize money on the line. So what you can do, and we'll see if LGD bans Tiny here. In fact, I think I would be really surprised if LGD didn't ban Tiny, at least with one of their last two remaining bans. The CK ban makes a ton of sense. Orange already showing them exactly how well they can use that hero in conjunction with a Magnus in particular. Empower just adds so much extra punching power to what CK can already bring to bear in that stage of the game. And Orange going to go ahead and start taking out the team fight heroes. Get rid of heroes that can make a big difference in 5-on-5 in the mid game. Get rid of your Beastmaster. Get rid of your Enigma. We'll see what they want to do with their last one. They can even get rid of a Tidehunter. Tidehunter, a fantastic hero that you can use to hit the reset button in a lot of these early fights. Once he hits level 6, you don't even use him to initiate. You just wait for the Anti-Mage to find his farm while you sit under your towers with the other 4 heroes. Try to keep map control at least neutral as long as you can. And it makes it real hard for a Magnus to confidently engage when the reach of Ravage is just so much, much larger than a reverse polarity. And if Tide is well played, which he certainly would be on the side of LGD if they decided to go in that direction, he's going to be able to get a Ravage off all the time. LGD, though, going to go ahead and take out another mid-game centric carry. I shouldn't say centric. I mean, a Shadow Fiend is an extremely hard carry later on. It's just the way the Necromastery works on him that makes him so very potent in the mid-game. So long as he has a good start, he is very easy to kill, and he is very gankable. But if he gets a good start, gets 36 stacks up on his Necromastery very quickly, that plus the pure damage output that can come out of Shadow Rays, not to say nothing of his ultimate, the variety of ways you can build him. You can take a Luna-esque approach, a Jackie Chan approach, as I tend to call it. And there's a story behind that. Some days I'll answer a mailbag and explain why I call it the Jackie Chan build. But the Jackie Chan build is basically what you tended to see on Luna for the longest time, where you would just go something like Tranquil Boost straight up to drums, then perhaps to a Yasha BKB or right to a BKB after drums, so on and so forth. You can do that on a Shadow Fiend, or you can just say, no, never mind. I just want to blow things up in your face immediately in the mid game and build a Shadow Blade. So taking him out makes a ton of sense. Orange is going to go ahead and actually take out the Ched, which, I mean, it really jives with what I was talking about, trying to take away that early team fight potential from LGD. And that could be a very potent mix early on to have a Chen running out of a defensive tri-lane with the Anti-Mage. Chen able, of course, to allow Anti-Mage to feel pretty safe having him around, and then they can just begin to push and split push together later on. But Tinker, the last ban out from LGD. Now, Orange still looking for a carry. I think they're going to grab Tiny. And that's exactly what Zenith did to Team DK whenever they showed an Anti-Mage pick this early on as well. Tiny is one of the very few heroes in the game that all things being equal, farm for farm, just can beat Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage just is not going to be able to do quite as well against the Tiny as he would like to be able to do so, especially with Magnus already on the side of Orange. Magnus's ability to empower the Tiny means Tiny can just decide to go with a tank up kind of ability, doesn't need a BKB. I mean, it's always questionable whether a carry Tiny is going to grab a BKB to begin with, but it's pretty much decided with a Magnus on your team. You can even just get something. I mean, obviously, Assault Cuirass is going to be there. You're going to get some innate tank survivability coming out of your Ags. But you can go something like a Yasha into a Manta, which adds a little bit of survivability, your ability to Manta out of negative effects, then you can tack on a heart as well. And that'll allow you to stand and fight while you're empowered with that massive amount of cleave damage that's already there, plus what comes off of Magnus, plus the bonus damage. And Anti-Mage, because of Craggy exterior, just cannot stand and go blow for blow confidently with the Tiny. And Craggy is one of the most infuriating passives or anything in the entire game if you've ever had to go up against it, because you get stunned before your auto attack even lands. As you're winding up, you get stunned, which means you don't even get that one last hit off. And Bane going to be the pickup now. And I'll tell you, man, looking at picking up this Bane, they may just offensively tri-lane Rubik, Leshrac, and Bane, and then pick a solo farming hero to go into the solo safe lane against what they're going to anticipate as a Darkseer, I think. Very, very interesting pickup in the Bane. And I'll tell you what, that makes me a little nervous, though. I'm not going to lie. It does make me a little bit nervous because that gives them 3 squishy heroes. They're going to be very susceptible to Nyx Assassin. They're going to be very susceptible to Anti-Mage getting on top of them and blowing them up with Mana Void. And now with the Keeper of the Light, that gives them a lot of team fight potential, a lot of anti-push or push. In this case, given it will be with an Anti-Mage, I would imagine they'll be more relying on Keeper of the Light to keep their towers up and to try and buy time, buy some map control equilibrium for the Anti-Mage to find his farm when and where he can. You put that with a Nyx Assassin and a Darkseer, 2 very hard heroes to engage into without feeling like you're just going to be all in the moment you decide to take your first shot. And I like this draft at LGD a lot so far. The Anti-Mage pick, again, is something that can be easily counterpicked. But so far, I need to see the 5th pickup from Orange to feel as if I've got a grasp on exactly what they want to do here. I mean, they could do something nutso, like farm a Magnus and mid a Rubik or something like that, but trying to stay away from that kind of an approach and think about it in more stable terms. You hear hoofbeats, you think horses, not zebras. And I really can't wait to see this, especially given how much confidence they have rolling into Game 2. They may well just show us something brand new. Or they could just pick a Tiny and say the hell with it. And we'll have to see, though. And still, I mean, something else worth mentioning, I've seen it once in a while. You don't see it all that typically. Is they can honestly, they're going to get a Luna. Okay, so I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to end up offensively tri-laning the Rubik, the Leshrac, and the Bane. They'll send Magnus mid, and then Luna into the offlane, or possibly Magnus into the offlane and mid the Luna, if they feel confident against who they're going to be up against in mid. Right now, Nyx Assassin and Darkseer are the 2 #1 candidates. Queen of Pain is still available for LGD if they want to get a dedicated, very stable mid-lane hero. But, I mean, both of these lineups just really well composed, really well put together. It's going to be Invoker. So LGD shows us an Invoker pickup, and they're going to be looking to... now, the way that the Invoker builds is going to be interesting to me as well. One would imagine that'll be a mid-Invoker unless they just do something truly bizarre. I mean, they could, solo sit. Nah, they're not going to offensively tri-lane with an Anti-Mage. Never mind. I am just talking and on my way to making a wrong statement, so I'll stop myself there. But if Orange does indeed end up offensively tri-laning this Rubik, Leshrac, and Bane, and they're going to have plenty of kill potential against the Nyx Assassin and a Keeper of the Light. Keeper in particular is going to be the #1 target they're going to be looking to put a lot of pressure on, no doubt about it. Anti-Mage very tough to pick off just because, as we know, his Blink gives him some innate survivability even from level 1 or 2. Nyx Assassin with Carapace makes it very hard to isolate him as well. But when you look at all of the ways they're going to be able to chain their abilities together, they're certainly going to have the chance to get a lot of kills if they decide to play this ultra aggressive. And they could end up doing something just completely different. So we'll have to wait and see. But when you talk about leading off with Nightmare, follow it up with a Split Earth, follow that up with a Telekinesis, then you have Fade Bolt, then you have Brain Sap, and then any damage that Leshrac can contribute, be it Lightning or Edict. That's a lot for even in a smaller team engagement, not necessarily a 3-on-1. I mean, obviously, you get someone isolated 3-on-1, it's probably going to be a kill anyway. But even if it's 3-on-3, 3-on-2, etc., that's so much for the other team to have to deal with. And those abilities are not particularly hard to chain together so long as the communication is good. And I don't think there's any question of that after Orange showed us just what they're capable of in game #1. As is, though, let's run through our lineup, see who's handling who. We'll have Mushi farming up once again. This time, they're going to be on the Luna. We'll have our Rubik handled by K. Going to have X playing on our Yeah, they're going to have X playing on our Rubik this time around. Net will be handling our Bane. Leshrac will be played by Kate. Misread the name. And Ohio handling our Magnus on the other side of the river. Darkseer going to be played by Zhao. 8 Animage will be farmed by Siler. He's actually hanging around mid right now. We'll see if that's where they end up putting him or not. DDC will be playing on our Nyx Assassin. Invoker handled by Yao. And Keeper of the Light will be played by Long DD. And yeah, Siler's going to be creep blocking here in mid. And they may try to bait some movement out of Orange. They're hanging around for the moment. And no, I was thinking they might leave one behind. That's not going to be the case. So they're actually going to be midding the Animage against Magnus. That's a matchup that Animage should do pretty well in, I mean, in all fairness. And it is going to be a solo lane Mushi, and with that tri-lane that I anticipated of Leshrac, Rubik, and Bane. Now, this is really fascinating because Invoker, even if he builds Exhort, he'll be able to do some damage, sure. But he is a much squishier and easier to pick off target than an Animage would have been. And his support staff, I mean, Long DD is going to be in a defensive tri-lane, so this is really where Keeper of the Light tends to shine for the most part anyway. Much better in a defensive than offensive. But I worry about this pull camp. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many professional players I've talked to, the Dire side pull camp, much easier to contest. Oh, looks like we're going to have a brief pause. But let me finish my thought. Much easier to contest than the Radiant side pool camp. And depending on how active Orange is going to be, I mean, and they can honestly just do this as well. Just try to prioritize getting their Leshrac off to a good start. Hold on, this Illuminate should connect, and DDC is going to look to follow it up. Ooh, singe the Grand Magus's robes a little bit there. But there is a lot of kill potential on both sides. And with Chakra on the side of Keeper of the Light, they're going to be able to do this all they want. This might be our first blood. And yeah, it will be. Now they're going to try to pause. Nope, never mind. Thought they were going to try to get the return kill. But that's the kind of mistake Orange really could ill afford to make. We see Bane had made his way down to mid now to help the Magnus out. Going to try to do what they can to shut Siler down. Siler's certainly going to soak up experience, no problem, but with Enfeeble, making it very hard for him to last hit. This is a nice way, a really smart way for Orange to mitigate any advantage that Siler might have had in this matchup. And we can already see he has put 3 points into each skill, 1 in each skill, I should say. We'll see if he's going to go with the Burning build, get the stats next, but just the 1 point and the Spell Shield helps him deal with Shockwave particularly well. But as it stands right now, they're really leaving their Leshrac and the Rubik kind of out to dry here. This is not an optimal situation for them at all. They'll be able to get some experience. They'll be able to get some last hits here and there, but the threat of dying is always going to be, it's going to be omnipresent. Just because they don't have Bane there to bail them out with a Nightmare, to reliably pour on some damage with a Brain Sap. And taking a look at Siler, we can see he is beginning to struggle a bit. He's starting to fall behind. Not tremendously so. But with Enfeeble being spammed out on him, Bane just doing an excellent job of forcing him out along with Orange. Looks like we're going to have a disconnect, so that'll give me time to thank each and every one of you for joining us here on One More Game TV2. Would love it if you would hit follow here. And would love it if you would follow me on the various social networks and other sharing media as well. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Ayesee, at AYESEE. And on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/ACTV. That is my personal stream, which, granted, does not get a lot of use. I'm doing a lot of casting lately, a lot of behind-the-scenes work, but at some point I am going to try to get a subscriber feature on there. I haven't done it yet, and it's something that so graciously is requested from a lot of the viewers, and I can't tell you guys how much your viewership and your support means. It really does mean the world to me, and I want to do everything I can to interact with you guys as much as I can, and certainly in esports, you know, esports is a tough business to make a living in. I'm one of the very few fortunate enough to do that. And subscribe feature from Twitch, a great feature to make that job a little bit easier. And for those who do want to support, I am working on that. Just want to say that publicly, that it's something I have in mind, one way or the other. But I am so busy with content here for One More Game TV too that I worry. That's one reason I haven't done it yet, is I worry that I wouldn't be able to turn out consistent enough content on my personal channel to really merit it. And the last thing I want to do is leave the viewers feeling as if they did not get what they paid for. So, but as it is right now, all I ask of you guys And all I would ever ask, even under different circumstances, is that you be here to support the channel by just viewing and enjoying the Dota. And hopefully you guys have as much fun watching the broadcasts as I do creating them. You can also check out the G1 coverage hub, G1.2p.com. Find out all of your information regarding this season, season number 5 of the G1 Champions League. It's been a lot of fun so far. We're about halfway through Phase 3 now. Nah, maybe not about halfway. We're close-ish to halfway through Phase 3. Still have the North American European qualifiers to go. Still have a lot of action here. You can also pick up your in-game ticket, but again, for free, all it takes is you heading to G1.2p.com. You got great interviews. New one just went up today. Great write-ups and articles. If you're wondering how the phases work, how the formats work, all the information you could possibly want about that is there as well. So, and not to mention your broadcast hub. You can bounce back and forth between myself and Beyond the Summit if you have different tastes for different days, and check out what they have going on their channel. And you can also, if you happen to be a Rusky, you can check out our Russian coverage as well. And this looks unpleasant. Am I going to be disconnected? Why am I the only one here? Did I miss something? Go load. I guess we're loading we're going to have a remake. So I'm going to guess I just missed the memo on that. Thanks so much, guys. Again, sorry for the slight delay. Get a little bit of music rolling for you, and we'll be right back with the remake. I'm Ayesee. This is One More Game TV2. Game 2 of this best of 3 between Orange and LGD will resume in just a moment. Stick with us. And we're back for game number 2 of this best of 3, and apparently they're just going to flat out remake this, and I'm not a fan. I mean, it's understandable. I'm not sure what the issue was. Obviously, when you're dealing with language barriers, I'm not always sure, and I stay in the loop. They do a great job of letting me know what's going on most of the time, but not sure what the problem was. I think it was the inability of a player to reconnect following a disconnect, so we had a remake, but I'll tell you, I think this hurts LGD. I think it hurts them quite a bit. They had gotten themselves a decent little advantage starting out with the anti-mage mid. It was a surprise, and then Magnus was not having the best of time up against him, so they rotated Bane down, and the rotation of Bane cost Orange a first blood. And I mean, the hard decisions are made, and that's fine. I'm actually surprised LGD is not protesting this. They had a first blood ahead. They had that first blood going into the tri-lane, and now they're running the anti-mage, which I don't think Orange expected at all. I mean, obviously, I didn't expect it until I saw him setting up, but the fact that Bane did not start in mid and then made his way down after the fact tells me that was as big a surprise to Orange as it was to me. But as is, we are going to resume. Enough about that. Let's talk about what's in front of us. We're back to 0-0, at least in this game. So far as the actual game scores, 0-1, the lead for Orange right now over LGD. And LGD up against it, man. They flat out got outplayed in game 1. Absolutely no doubt about it. And got to look to bounce back here in game 2. Orange in a must-win situation. Or very close to a must-win situation. Yeah, now here comes Net again. But look how much quicker Net's going to get here this time. And Anti-Mage has yet to get a single last hit. He was leading in CS by... Even after Bane had been there a minute or two, he was still leading in CS. And yeah, this is not good for LGD. He actually got one there, but anyway, back up to this top lane. Rubik and Leshrac gonna be living life on the edge, and I mean that quite literally. When you have the chakra potential coming out of long DD, just to guarantee that they're able to keep Nyx Assassin in particular full of mana, keep the Invoker full of mana. And he's already, we can see he's already skilled Cold Snap, picked up his ulti, picked up Invoke, I should say. Really can't even call it an ultimate because it's just such a core part of the hero. But picks up Invoke at level 2 as anticipated. And Sylar just continuing to struggle here. 7 last hits on the Magnus to the 2 of the Anti-Mage. And Orange playing much safer this time, not wanting to give up yet another first blood. And LGD at least having their way with the Invoker. The Invoker's sitting quite prettily. Prettily? Yeah, that's a word. It is now. Sitting in quite pretty position with their last hit so far. Should be a relatively quiet early game, one can imagine. Depending on rune control and so forth. Up DDC gonna be there. Ned wisely decides to head back in the other direction. Oh, little stutter step almost cost him a shot, but now with the Invis rune picked up on Nyx Assassin, there is no ward here whatsoever out of Orange. They have no idea what rune spawned, and there's gonna be kill potential if DDC sits right about there. Yep, right. I'm actually surprised he's pulling back that far. He could honestly sit right about here and just wait for them to cross across right here, throw an impale that way, and then you could have a Keeper of the Light shooting an Illuminate from right there, from just out of vision. And yeah, he is going to be hanging in that general situation, or that general position. And this could get real ugly for Orange. And they're going to go ahead and bring down the trees and contest this pull camp as well, just making sure that this wave does end up double pushing, and that's a real simple thing that's worth mentioning. For all of you newer Dota players who, and granted, it's not, I mean, seeing double pulling like LGD was doing right there is not something you're going to see at low and even most medium levels of play. But what they did there, and the reason they're not hanging around trying to kill these, I mean, obviously it's very dangerous for them to do that. But what was being attempted to be done there was for these creeps to be pulled down here. Well, excuse me, the lane creeps were pulled down to a single stacked camp, and then they were going to try to pull this camp up to here, I should say. And that's what's called a double pull. It makes it so the lane doesn't push out, but you can see the lane already pushing out now because that double pull was stopped just by Orange throwing out 1 or 2 auto attacks and keeping that secondary camp, this camp right here. And yeah, here we can see exactly what I'm talking about. Go ahead and grab them, and there you go. So this, if these were not chasing these down to right here, these would have gone back into lane up this way and then pushed into the tower, giving this duo lane, which is very, very, very tough to play from Orange, giving them more experience and the chance for more last hits. But just wanted to point that out because it's one of those subtle little things that makes a good player a better player. And hopefully you guys can put that in your back pocket. Next time you're in a situation like that, even if you're just a solo hero, you can say, nope, no double pull for you. And I figure, by the way, normally I won't go into that much detail and spend that much time talking about such a simple mechanic, but it is going to be a very quieter laning phase. Outside of this top lane anyway. There should not be a lot of action too many places, so thought I could get away with doing it, and I was right. Sylar is suffering badly here in mid. Sylar has 8 last hits at 4.5 minutes. Bane getting there with Enfeeble skilled immediately. Never had a chance to get ahead of the Magnus. 27 last hits for Mag, 29 for Darkseer. But Mushi is sitting in a really good position as well. And I'll tell you what's really impressive about this. And, I mean, Darkseer in a one-on-one situation is going to just be able to do well. Just look how cool that was, by the way. Mushi kiting the ion-shelled creep around the tower just right. Doing it just so he took very little damage. And now Mushi, ooh, he's level 6. Zhao 8 has 2 points in the surge, and he is going to surge. Mushi, woo, Mushi looking to get a kill on the board there. But yeah, what a Darkseer can do here is obviously just keep shoving the lane with Ion Shell, then he can dip back into this area, usually right about here, and then he can just cut these creeps using Ion Shell, and that puts a lot of pressure on this tower. It doesn't stop Mushi from farming, but it means most of the time, unless it's played just right, that the tower is going to take a lot more damage. It's going to be a banged-up tower by the time the laning phase begins to break down, but Mushi's actually done a fantastic job of zoning Zhao 8 out as much as he possibly can. Ooh, spins the Eclipse, but unable to close the distance fast enough. Mushi sands his boots. A very appetizing target to a Luna with some tranquil boots, but as is, Zhao 8 does have his soul ring up, so spamming Ion Shell never going to be a problem. He'll be able to just continue doing this as long as he so much desires. Bane has just left mid though, so he is leaving Magnus to fend for himself momentarily. This is going to open some space up for. Oh, they actually swapped Yao. That's why. Was busy watching the Darkseer and the Darkseer and the Luna bottom. Didn't notice they had rotated the anti-mage up. So Sylar now moving up to mid, and this is almost a direct result again, and I don't mean to be fatalistic about it, but the surprise of the anti-mage in mid completely taken away by the regame without a new draft, and just not getting any work done to worth mentioning in mid. So rotating Yao down. Yao's got decent enough levels. He's almost level 6 though, so Magnus should be under a considerable amount of pressure. In fact, we already see him forced back because of the cold snap and just the pure damage output. Taking a look at Yao's skill build, he is going Quas Wex. I really, really like the fact that he's going Quas Wex for one big reason. Their team already had some really, really outstanding anti-push, but now it kind of comes down to terminology. Like, casters use terms, but they're not always clearly defined, even in terms of what each caster means. When I say anti-push, what I'm generally referring to is the ability to knock out a creep wave very quickly from safety underneath your own tower and make it very difficult for a team to apply pressure to towers in a concerted fashion, in a concentrated, sustained fashion. I mean, if a team's willing to 5-man dive you under your tower, then it doesn't matter how many Illuminates you have. Illuminate's just not on a short enough cooldown to stop that. But, you know, whenever you look at the lineup of LGD, between Illuminate, between Darkseer with his Ion Shell, and so on and so forth, they have a lot of ways to just make it very difficult to apply consistent pressure to a tower in the early laning phases. With the Invoker going Quas Wex instead of Exord, yes, they're going to be missing out on a little bit of damage. Yes, his presence will not be quite as deadly as it could be if he was landing Sunstrikes from across the map and so on and so forth. But what it gives them is basically a reset button. And I talked briefly about that in the draft, how Tidehunter might be an option for that as well. But the fact that they have an Invoker who can throw out a Tornado to reset a fight, he can drop an EMP, which is going to send the enemy team scrambling, especially at these early stages. It not only gives anti-push, it gives great 5-on-5 potential under your own tower, even at the early phases of the game. So Orange with a great lineup in their own right. They certainly got enough spammable abilities between Shockwave, between Leshrac and Rubik's Fade Bolt, so on and so forth. But don't think this is a game where they're going to be able to just begin 3- and 4-man pushing towers and slowly grinding them down. Now, Yao has a Bane right behind. Oh! Ohio whiffing badly. Net, his buddy, just sitting there. I don't know why he didn't Nightmare. Why would he not Nightmare there? And Ohio misguessing the range. That hurts. If they had killed off that Invoker, that not only puts the Magnus that much closer to his Blink Dagger, and he has had a great start. So, I mean, he's not a million miles away by any stretch. He's closing in on 1,000 gold towards that Blink Dagger, so not quite halfway there, but making progress. They get a kill there. Not only do they set Yao back, but they get him that much closer to a Blink Dagger and get him that much closer to being able to start bouncing around this map confidently with his core items. But anyway, back to Mushi. Mushi is going to be going with what would seem to be the Jackie Chan build, getting up his Tranquil Boots. He's got his drums now. He's got 1,000 gold laid away as well. We'll see what he wants to do with that. BKB potential. I don't think I'd like a Shadow Blade pickup here at all. Well, no, let me revise that. It all comes down to how confident Orange is in their lineup going into the late game. It all comes down to how confident Orange is that they could win at 40 minutes instead of 30. Getting drums is fine. A Shadow Blade would not be a terrible pickup on Mushi if they are really worried about the Anti-Mage. If they're really worried about the composition they have stacking up against the composition of LGD. And there are plenty of reasons to worry. I mean, Quaswex Invoker, very, very potent in early team fights, so it's going to be very difficult to fight in the mid-game phase as well, to say nothing of a well-armed or well-aimed Illuminates. Luna can be taken out of the fight at least for a few seconds just by virtue of blinding light, and that giving her an immensely large miss percentage, and not going to have any follow-up there. So there are problems they have if they do want to fight, and against an Anti-Mage, you do want to fight in the mid-game. You don't want to just say, oh, Anti-Mage's big weakness is he doesn't fight very well in the mid-game, therefore we're just going to assume you can't push us and just let you get to the late game and we'll try to out-farm you late. That just doesn't work, and no professional team's going to do that. So a Shadow Blade in that situation might make sense if they really feel like they're under the gun. Luna is a great late-game carry as well, though. Not quite on the level of a Tiny in terms of being able to go one-on-one, toe-to-toe with an Anti-Mage, but still good. And there is always the big X factor that is reverse polarity. Oh, now they're going to catch Styler. Well-aimed split earth. They don't follow it up. I'm actually surprised that we didn't see X use a telekinesis there, if no other reason than to make him burn some regen, because he did go treads instead of the Tranquil Boots, so regen is a small factor, if not the hugest. But still very quiet. 11 minutes in, not a single kill on the board. Taking a look at Yao, he's now level 8. He's going to be on his way to a 4-staff following his phase boots. He's got his Staff of Wizardry already complete. Bane now soaking up some solo experience in mid, trying to get himself up to snuff in levels, while Ohio has made his way into the jungle. He's about 700 gold away from that Blink Dagger now, so even in the jungle, he'll be getting there soon. Bracer out on Leshrac. Don't know that that's going to be a naked Bracer, if you will. Just go ahead and try to turn that into a set of drums eventually. And the Luna, Mushi having his way. 80 last hits at 11 minutes. You think that's some okay farm? You think he's doing all right? He is going to get the BKB, by the way. So full Jackie Chan. Never go full Jackie Chan, man. Go full Jackie Chan. Actually, you should go full Jackie Chan, because Jackie Chan is awesome. Full Jackie Chan build. On the way, Ogre Club, on the way to his BKB. But anyway, Mushi at 80 last hits, 16 denies, and this is in the face of a Darkseer, which again is normally not going to be able to slow his farm down necessarily. But usually, I mean, the tower has taken some bangs, but the fact that the tower's still up at all, and hang on, we've got an invasion of the enemy jungle. Illuminate going to catch the 2 squishies, as Lesh and Rubik are both forced back. But, I mean, 84 last hits in 12 minutes is actually kind of insane. Like, he's going to be close to perfect farm at 20 if he keeps this pace up, and that is just nutso. Especially against a Darkseer who can do stuff like this. Just run you off of the creep wave, and now counter-engaging. Few last hits here and there. Mushi says, you know what? You can hit me, but I can hit you just as hard. And with Tranquil Boots, we'll be able to regen himself back up. Now long DD, or excuse me, DDC is going to spin the Vendetta, and he actually turned around. I think they could have gotten a kill there. They had the Mana Void from Sylar if they wanted to use it, and the Illuminate probably would have connected if he had impaled, and they had timed it up right. As is, though, Orange stays safe. And again, just think of the difference. Think of how different the complexion of this game feels after the remake. And I hate to go back to it, but it is worth mentioning. I don't care what anybody says. It is worth mentioning how different this game feels and the way that this game seems to be heading right now compared to where we were before the remake. And Ohio, having resumed his station in mid, they actually kill off the Darkseer. Wow. Okay, I'm blaming lag for me missing that. I looked down and there was some glitchy movement, but Bane does get first blood on the Darkseer. And I have video evidence that lag was involved because by the time I was staring at Darkseer's body, they still hadn't given us the annoying little, appropriately annoying, I should say, little Bane soundbite when he gets a first blood. It is the most absolutely infuriating thing in the world when Bane first bloods you because of that. It is so awful. But anyway, they get the first blood, and yeah, Orange with first blood this time around. Anti-Mage has been held down really admirably. He has 50 last hits in 14 minutes, below even average farm, let alone decent farm. His experience has not been quite as well, or is not quite as high as it could have been, potentially. And Orange in really good shape right now. Luna is just getting huge. Gonna have 100 last hits in 15 minutes. That is sick. That is so silly. Like, it is just silly how much that is. Now, we're going to have Yao isolated telekinesis. There's an RP going to be spin as well. They get one. Can they get DDC? There's the skewer back. And I'm going to guess there's some lag. That was horrendously missed right there by our Leshrac. And I think I'm getting some lag as well. But such is life. They make it 3-0, and LGD is hurting. Not just because they're giving up kills, but because this guy right here, Mushi, is turning into a monster before our very eyes. He's got enough for a Mithril Hammer. He has the potential, no joke, to have like 18 minutes full Jackie Chan. That is insane. That, I mean, even if it is a one-on-one, it doesn't matter. Darkseer's going to be able to do annoying stuff. And with the change to Tranquil Boots, you can't just, sit back and be like, oh, I'll just face take the creeps and heal up despite it. You can't do that. And not only that, they got the first blood here. So Mushi, just a monster, already past what it costs to get the Mithril Hammer. Now he's about 1,000. Yeah, like 17, 18 minutes, he'll have his full BKB. Sylar trying to play catch-up as best as he can. He's sitting at 61, and Invoker actually gets a kill on Magnus. Not sure where that happened. Take a look. Looks like in bottom, and yeah, I'll get there just in time to see Mushi picked off. But LGD finally getting themselves on the board and getting two very clutch kills. Two kills they needed to get. They needed to have in the Luna and the Magnus. Now looking to finally bring down this tier 1, and that's going to help them make up a lot of ground. Just setting Mushi back a little bit. He did spend his gold on the Mithril Hammer, so not the biggest deal in the world that he died there, but just slowing down his momentum at all. And Magnus does have his Blink Dagger. Obviously, the RP not ready to draw upon in that fight, but will be back up momentarily. And LGD gave up first blood, gave up the first few kills, but they draw first blood in terms of towers. And we can see that puts the gold squarely back in their favor. The graphs look pretty violent, but honestly, the difference between both teams still relatively small at this moment. And now, again, this is where the choice of Orange comes into play. How do you want to play this? Like, when you're up against an anti-mage in a situation like this, you have to identify what timing window you want to hit and build accordingly. You don't want to go late most of the time. Even if you counterpick him with something like a Tiny, you still want to get ahead of him and stay ahead of him in the mid-game. And looks like Orange is ready to try and turn things around now. They're smoked up. If Sylar's the target, it would be great if they could get him. And we're going to see Rubik. What did he steal? Managed to get Blink. Sylar locked down. Fiend's Grip is there. Follow-up Split Earth. And they will clean him up. Now, though, the counter charge from LGD. Good vacuum brings two together. One's down. Here comes Mushi. Doesn't have the clips. The RP got three, though. Shockwave and the beautiful Split Earth to follow it up. What patience. What guts out of Orange to hang and fight there. You saw nothing but a cadre of red names come charging out, and now Long DD hung around a little too long. And Ohio gets in front of him. Few auto attacks. That's a wipe. Oh, Orange. What balls to stand and fight there. You saw the TP reactions, you heard them, and then you just had this absolute posse of face-breaking red names from LGD come charging out from that now destroyed Tier 1 tower. As soon as I saw that, I'll admit it as a broadcaster, I saw that and said, time to run. If you play Dota, you still, even though you're not playing, you see stuff get, run away, no Eclipse on Luna, run away. But they didn't. They stayed and fought, and what an RP from Ohio. And what a skill shot out of our Leshrac. Timed it perfectly, caught everyone with it. And he's only got 2 points into it, too. That's important to note. It's one thing to have a max Split Earth and to hit and catch 2 or 3 like that, but he's got 2 points, man. And the radius does increase with each point. So he hit that just right. Just timed perfectly. And Orange counter-punching in a big way. Playing a little more pressure now as they've re-smoked, and they're now going to move in. They got to be careful here. They could end up being sandwiched in and cut off from support. Zhao 8. Oh, buddy. This could be bad. Ned has Fiend's Grip if he wants it. And, yep, that's a dead Zhao 8. There's no help coming, at least in time to save you. Oh, no. No, finally. There. He stole Mana Void. He actually used it on the Darkseer. There will be the counter kill. Sylar hitting for nothing after the Enfeeble. And, the Tornado from the Invoker. Enough to lock down K. There's a Split Earth before. Doing what damage you can. They're going to follow it up. Look how low they are. Shockwave from a distance actually caught more than I think they knew it did. But LGD now getting some kills in return as well. This has freed things up, though. And basically, Mushi's doing what Animate should be doing, other than eclipsing into a Spike Carapace. But DDC unable to deny the tower, even though he was there. But this is what your Animage wants to do. If you want to be split pushing while your team is doing what Orange's is doing. And Orange is just playing this perfectly. So important that they got that win in the shadow of the Tier 1 top, though. So essential. If they'd lose that fight, they're unable to do this confidently at all. And Mushi already laying into the Tier 1 mid as well. Here comes Darkseer. That tower is not quite in deny range yet. In fact, he may just let it get down the deny range. 176, not quite there yet. Now they're actually going to clean this up. That might end up being a mistake. You get a tower that low, you usually, especially up against a Luna, now vacuum up into the Ion Shell. But just look, I mean, Luna just is not caring right now. She's already tanked up so much from having such an early BKB and an early set of drums. And Bane's actually, they're going to kill Animage again. How did they do that? Did he spend RP? Yeah, he did. Okay, that explains it. I saw them making their way towards Animage and didn't get the camera up there because it's Animage. You figure Animage is just going to blink away. But instead, Orange manages to kill Animage yet again, and this game is in real danger of getting away from them. Animage at 86 last hits at 21 minutes is awful. And now there's a vacuum in. Going to catch to the wall. And Rubik's going to be able to steal Illuminate before he dies. No counter initiation coming out of Orange. Now pursuing out Mushi. Mushi spins his BKB as well as his drums, though, to make sure he can get back to safety. They chained things together there fairly well. Unable to get anyone but the Rubik, though. Mech is done on the Darkseer, so that's a nice step in the right direction. Going to give them a bit more sustain in some of these fights. But right now, and now, Ohio just about gets a solo kill in mid. And a little bit of damage done. But, yeah, Mushi is just basically having his run of the map. He's just bouncing lane to lane, taking farm like crazy. He's got 2,500 gold. He is going to go Yasha. Was just going to mention he could go Yasha, or he could even start to build lifesteal. He's so far ahead. I mean, you take a look at the levels. He's level 15. He is 3 levels higher than the Animage right now. Magnus is higher level than the Animage right now. That is just untenable. That is not something you can allow to happen if you're Sylar. And granted, it's not his fault, but he's at 22 minutes still looking for a BKB. He was given a solo lane, so he shouldn't be trailing in levels, at least for a little while. Then he had tri-lane. Now they're going to re-engage in Mushi, hanging around way too long here. Now there's a vacuum, and they brought in the Rubik as well. X going to make a run for it. Skill shot comes out from, good blink, stolen from the Animage. But the Tornado should still seal his fate. No, he's going to blink again. Blinks right into a DDC, though, who's happy to add to his kill total using that Vendetta. Down bottom, though, Ohio on a way to a BKB of his own, applying some pressure here. It's going to force the reaction, but that's a reaction from Sylar. He's going to be quite happy to have a chance to catch up in some farm. So LGD fighting their way back into this. Killing off the Luna there, essential. Very clutch pickoff and very big mistake out of Mushi, to be honest. Lightning going to be spent to try and keep this tower up a little bit longer. There goes the Tornado. Let's see if they want to engage off of this. Illuminate is going to connect. Nope, actually didn't catch anyone. Very well dodged there by them. So being able to keep that tier 1 up, though, still a big victory for them. We can see they still lead 2 towers, or 3 towers down to the 1. Sylar still looking for that BKB at 23 minutes into this game. And he should, yeah, he has it now. But still, much later than he would have liked to have come out. We're going to have a brief pause, and looks like Animage is going to go ahead and reconnect, try to sort out some lag issues. Want to thank each and every one of you once again, though, for being a part of this broadcast. You're on One More Game TV 2. This is the G-1 Champions League, Phase 3 of the Asia Qualifier. If this is your first time in, would love to have you back in the future. Make sure you hit follow here on One More Game TV 2. You can also follow me, Ayesee, your commentator, on Twitter. It's at Ayesee, at AYESEE, and on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/ACTV. That's my personal stream, which, as I mentioned during our last break, I don't really use all that much right now, just because the majority of my streaming is done right here for tournaments like D2L, like G-1, and so on. But as things settle out a bit in my life, as I'm in the midst of preparing for a potential move, and no, I'm not going to talk about that, so don't spam the chat, because I'm not going to answer questions about that right now. But as things settle out, I will hopefully begin to use that channel a bit more, so hope you guys will follow me there. You can also find links to all of my other media, my YouTube account, which is ACTV, by the way, Facebook, Twitter, playlist. If you like the music that you've been hearing on the stream, you can find all of that there as well. And while you're in the business of checking out some websites, why don't you go ahead and check out G1.2p.com, the coverage hub for the G1 League. Fantastic articles and write-ups, interviews almost daily, it feels like, almost every day. It seems like they're turning out really cool interviews with your favorite players. You've got your broadcasting hub, and you can interact with us in real time on Twitter. We always try to tweet, and when I say we, I mean me and Beyond the Summit and the Russians and so on and so forth. We try to tweet in between games as much as we can, and love to hear from you guys, so head over to G1.2p.com, check out that coverage hub, and that's the kind of website that's really cool to just set as your bookmark. If you're really interested in what's going on here in the G1, just set it to a startup page. Anytime you open a browser, it opens to maybe Google and that page or what have you. And then you can see what's going on a day-to-day basis. If we're live, you're going to have everything centralized in one location for you, and you can always catch up on what you may have missed the day before. Just a reminder to those who are perhaps more familiar with us, and of course to those who are perhaps hearing my voice for the first time, if you like what you're seeing and you're hearing, you should see what we got in store for the D2L. The D2L playoffs going to be taking place April 9th and 10th. All of your information about that can be found on d2l.evilgeniuses.net. The $10,000 playoffs featuring 4 of the best teams in Europe and North America. We got Dignitas, we got Team Liquid, we got Fnatic, and we got Empire, our defending champs, looking to make it 2 seasons in a row with 2 Americans and 2 American teams and 1 European team challenging them for that crown. $10,000 on the line. Again, April 9th, April 10th. Would love to see you there. Back in action, 23 minutes in. Take a look at our goal graph. We can see it is moving the direction of orange, or at least it has been. Now showing a little bit of a sign of leveling off. Still in their favor, but LGD has at least stopped the bleeding. The experience is in their favor. Not by a ton, but by enough that it's worth mentioning. And this is where orange has to keep the pressure up. And this is where an anti-mage pick can apply a lot of pressure to the other team. Mushi is remarkably far ahead right now. Mushi is basically, has farmed 33% more in terms of just pure CS. You look, yeah, I mean, he's getting very close to the stage where we'll be talking about him doubling the anti-mage if anti-mage doesn't catch up soon. Anti-mage actually gets a kill on Magnus here in mid while I was talking about that. And they're going to look to push off of this now. Moving up to the tier 1. And here comes orange. Not going to allow this to happen. And I like that LGD is taking the aggression, is going on the aggressive here. Given that their anti-mage is not where they need to be, their lineup, I felt, was built more for defending pushes, not necessarily pushing themselves. But with the mech done, they're feeling a little bit more confident in their ability to do this, and this is what it allows. Allows Siler finally a little bit of room to breathe. And even if they don't push through, which they're not going to, we're just going to see them go ahead and withdraw now, they have forced this reaction out of orange. Now, what orange does from here is what's going to determine the flow of this game. Do they see that and go, okay, they're just freeing up time for anti-mage, so I'm going to try to farm with him? Or do they see that and go, okay, that means they don't really want to fight. That means they don't feel confident that they should be fighting right now. So instead of that, we're going to do this. Exactly. This is what I love. This was the other option I was getting to. Do we smoke up? Do we look to get a pick? Do we look to push off of it? And wow, smoke going to be popped. Very good positioning from Long DD. And Ward's going down everywhere. And now the Fiend's Grip going to catch him. He has help, but it's not close enough. They're going to clean him up before help arrives. And they may charge up here. Oh, well, Xiao ain't going to show his face. There's a vacuum. Oh, I thought Orange was going to pull the trigger on RP. I thought he was. Now, they're going to engage. Down goes the wall. BKB up on Magnus. No catches 2 with the RP. Wants to skewer them back. Can he do it? Doesn't even need to as Luna shows up. Mushi using Eclipse. They're going to catch Xiao 8 as well. Down he goes. 14-10. And Ohio didn't give me the RP that I thought he was going to. Sometimes as a commentator, you just see things line up. And I saw Magnus heading towards a line of heroes that were all grouped together, the entire team of LGD, as they were retreating for the Tier 2. Hold that thought. Net will survive it. I thought he was going to blink and just land this sort of RP that makes me literally leap out of my seat. Instead, he gets a very good RP. The follow-up with Shockwave, the spam ability coming out of Orange's own bag of tricks, enough to get them another very key, very important win. They end up going 4-0, but more importantly, Anti-Mage among those 4. The fact that they were able to bring down the Anti-Mage again and get a tier 2 tower. And just look at where our Lesh is. He's already on his way to a BKB. He already has a point booster. Or a soul booster, excuse me. This is a very tanky Leshrac, to put it mildly. He's got 1,500 hit points right now. 1,000 on net, not too shabby either. He's got an urn in his own inventory, plus that gem. It's going to allow them to take total map control to really capitalize on the towers that they've already been able to bring down. And so far, it's worth mentioning, by the way, only 1 tower gone from Orange. And the way that LGD has played this has felt a little schizophrenic. And again, it's understandable why. Their game plan, the remake hurt them. I want to say it, okay? It did. And Anti-Mage being held down as far as he did, they lost their first blood advantage. And now moving in to the tier 1 top. This is going to be a tough fight for them to take. Magnus has RP fresh off of cooldown. Bean's Grip is available. There we go. Rubik catches Siler with telekinesis. No follow-up, though. Here comes Zhao 8. Zhao 8 with the wall, fresh and ready to roll as well. Not quite to a pipe yet, but he has his Hood of Defiance as well as a Vitality booster. And I'd be surprised if Orange backs here. I really would. I mean, they may obviously zone themselves back a little bit, wait on their Leshrac to catch up. But if they full out back as then just go and start farm, yeah, they're not going to. They're in a dominant position right now. 5,000 gold, 2,000 experience, their advantage. The Luna is just gigantic. She just about has a Manta right now, actually. Just looked at her gold, yeah. I mean, and she's looking at 12,000 net worth to the 8,000 of Anti-Mage. So you're talking a third of an advantage. 33%, give or take. And Mushi, not really caring. Still got a couple of long uses on his BKB as well. Still, he's on 8 seconds right now, so that's a very long BKB charge to have. And here we go. He's just going to go for it. There's a carapace. Here comes Magnus. Magnus looking for targets. Can't find anyone. Well kited, but it's going to cost them Zhao 8 as he's Fiend's Gripped. We're going to see Rubik cleaned up as well. Trading Zhao. No, Rubik actually survived. There's a deafening blast. Now, finally, the RP spent with the follow-up. And Mushi somehow finds himself on the high ground, still laying in as best he can from up there. He needs someone to get him down. Siler going to re-engage. That's a buyback from the Invoker as well. So Mushi doing what damage he can. Buyback comes out from Bane too. Mushi being vacuumed up there by the Darkseer. Clutch. Made all the difference. No doubt about it. If Mushi's still able to run roughshod in that fight does not end the way it did. Orange got the tower. They got some kills. There were buybacks on both sides, but buybacks much favoring Orange right now, just because they are so far ahead. But yeah, Darkseer, before he dropped, getting that vacuum off on Mushi. Utterly clutch. Utterly clutch. And Magnus YOLOs himself in and gonna end. Oh, there's a Nightmare. Might buy him some time. Now the Mana Void spin. He will end up dead. That was kind of goofy. Now Nyx Assassin's caught out following a split earth, but both teams showing us a little bit of sloppy play now. This tier 1. Oh, there's a Force Staff on DDC. And Net gonna be the target. He's gonna end up dropping. Here's a teleport in though. And Yao now isolated out. That Leshrac is so big, man. Now he's going to be vacuumed back. Can they clean him up? They should be able to, and they will. And Siler going to be caught out with the telekinesis. The Shockwave does some damage as well. Siler's still sitting on nothing but treads. And there's a gem right there, by the way. There you go. Long TD. But, still sitting on just treads and Battle Fury at 30 minutes. Not where you want to be with an Anti-Mage. He does have 2,800 gold in the bank, though, so he is making up some ground. Mushi, though, has completed his Manta style. And the question now becomes, what do you prioritize? I would love to see him start banking money for a Satanic. Banking money for a Reaver, even, towards the Satanic. Gives you 2 advantages. One, yes, it's a long grind to get 3,200 gold. But that also guarantees you have buyback. And now is a time in the game when buyback is going to become a pretty big influencing factor. We can already see only Anti-Mage and Keeper currently have it. There were a couple spent after that last fight. Some on both sides. The net worth, 3 of the top 4 going the way of Orange right now. Anti-Mage is beginning to catch up, though. And Orange, clearing the map of most outer tier towers. Only the tier 1 mid remains for LGD. But they've got to do something with it. They have to be feeling pressured now. They know the Battle Fury's done. Anti-Mage has a little bit of space, at least for this very moment. They need to get into that jungle, take it away. They need to work on taking down that tier 1. Take down that tier 1, win a team fight, get a Roche. Sounds like a simple enough game plan to me. 1,000 gold in the Bank of Mushi. I would open an account at the Bank of Mushi. It's a trustworthy name. Mushi leading the charge, and here we go. They're going to catch Nyx Assassin. The skewer's going to end up missing, though. And now the vacuum going to catch Mushi. The tornado EMP follow-up. Not going to connect. So, opportunities on both sides. Missed there. Force Staff is paying for itself in a big way for Yao. He has helped his teammates out. And for all I know, by the way, he may have Force Staff Mushi up to that ward spot, and I missed it. I honestly didn't see how Mushi got up there. I assume vacuum. Here we go. Counter initiation. Deafening Blast going to catch a couple, but Eclipse chewing through. Nyx Assassin RP caught two. Here's Anti-Mage, but he's a day late and $1 short. Can do nothing but watch his team burst into flames amidst the damage output of Orange. Sylar got there just a bit late. By the way, I am suing the makers of BioShock Infinite because apparently they ripped off my line that has been tweeted at me probably a billion times in the last week by people who say, oh my god, Ayesee, they used your line in BioShock. I claim ownership. It's like Steve Carell, and that's what she said. I should be getting a royalty. There's a Deafening Blast. That caught everyone. Can they follow it up? RP, though. Or excuse me. Skewer going to bring Sylar back, and he will be cleaned up. And this is beginning to look like the timer may have run out for LGD. 32 minutes in. Orange looking to take their first set of racks. Anti-Mage is down for 50 seconds. They're not going to be able to fight without him. They just can't. Orange can go take a free Roshan, or they could honestly rotate to another set of racks if they want. It's really just not going to matter much. 40 seconds still on Anti-Mage. Zhao 8 still running around, tier 1 boots. And yeah, they're just going to re-engage here. They fake back. Zhao 8's going to be the target. BKB's up. Zhao 8 will end up dropping. Wall spent. Sylar back up after a buyback. I actually didn't think Sylar had buyback. And he's going to Mana Void on Leshrac, but Lesh don't care. Lesh does not care, and Sylar enfeebled can do nothing. Has to run. The rest of his team making a scramble for the well as well. DDC going to be the latest name on the casualty list. And Rubik talking smack. Maybe next time, brother. I'll tell you what, that's one thing Bad Rider does. Of all the heroes in Dota 2, the one thing I love Bad Rider for is it kills you and says, bye, baby. That's just so awesome. Bad Rider's just awesome. Tell you what else is awesome. Who else is awesome? This guy right here and his team. Orange, looking great. We'll see what Mushi wants to add to his inventory. He's got 4,100 gold. May go ahead and head for the secret shop. He may just go damage and get a Demon Edge or a Reaver. Nope, he's actually going to go and get the Eagle Song. And that's okay. I feel like he'd probably get a little bit more out of the survivability granted to him by the Satanic. And the reason I say that, by the way, that's not just an ignorant opinion. Sylar, we saw what happens to Sylar when he gets enfeebled is just awful. He can't do anything. He runs around. He doesn't have a Manta style yet. He's still a decent amount of gold away. And now we're going to have Zhao 8 isolated once again. He should max himself back up. Isn't enough? Nope, he will drop. And he's down for 57 seconds. He will not have buyback. Not even close. Three of the top everyone. Farmers belonging to Orange. Sylar begging for an ultimate orb, begging for a Manta style so he can Manta out of Enfeeble. I actually don't know if that's true or not. I don't know that you can Manta out of Enfeeble. I want to say you can. I'll find out. I'll do research after the game. Anyway, here we go. We're going to see one cleaned up. Sylar's going to, RP, spin on Ohio. Ohio's had a couple of good games, but he has whiffed on some RPs here and there. And down comes the Rock. They're going to try and fight this out. Sylar tried to Mana Void there. There's the skewer. He's going to catch two. And Mushi forced back. And very low on health now. Can they catch him? They're going to at least get Net. And Net will be cleaned up. Tornado not nearly enough. I'm really genuinely surprised that they didn't just go Roche and they decided to go do that. That center set of racks missing, of course, problematic for LGD, but there is a sliver of hope. There is a chance. Now that they forced Orange back off the map at least a little while. Talisman of Evasion will be done on Mushi soon. He's got 1,700 gold. He may just start... Oh, I heard it. Trying to find out where it went. Talisman of Evasion is done now if he wants it, basically. He may go ahead and just bank up and wait to buy the item in one shot after he's confident he'll have buyback money, though. Because this might be desperation push time coming out from LGD. Manta is going to be done on Sylar momentarily, but he's just miles behind Mushi and the rest of Orange. And the Invoker looks like he's looking to get himself a Scythe of Ice, Xiao 8. Xiao 8 just decided he's going to build one of everything. Has a Hood of Defiance, a Vitality Booster, and his Plate Mail. So, some days you'd feel like a Sheep's Guard. Some days you feel like a Vanguard. Some days you feel like a Pipe. And right now he's just got a lot of items that make him very hard to kill. Give him a lot of health at the very least. But, as is, Orange back up and ready to fight. Sunstrike gonna check the Roche pit. They're gonna spot the Roche illusion. Now, seeing that Sunstrike, they may just go in off of this. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Because they're gonna look at, like, they're gonna see that and go, okay, Orange isn't there. They're probably smoked up looking to fight elsewhere. Because why else would they have a Roche, have a Magnus illusion watching the pit? They don't have any vision. They haven't had vision. Well, I take it back. They have that much vision. That's the extent of their vision. But more importantly, there's a big gap in vision for LGD. And there you go. That is disastrous. That is so smart. That is so smart from Orange. And you saw the ping come out immediately from Magnus. As soon as the Sunstrike hit next to his illusion, he pinged the pit. He knew that'd be safe. That is so smart. And now LGD facing elimination, down 1-0 in this best-of-3 series. They got to hold here if they want to have any chance of allowing Animage time to farm himself back into relevance. And Mushi gonna go ahead and pop his BKB. Here we go. Eclipse goes off as well. They can't stun him out. Not enough targets, though. EMP does connect. There's the wall down. And we see Lesh popped his BKB there as well. Fairly sloppy engagement out of Orange, to be honest. They wasted a lot there with very little gain from it. And they're going to fall all the way back. Lesh now with an ultimate orb in his inventory, tanking up even more so. Magnus is on his way to his refreshers. Net just picking up a couple of casual bracers, just looking for a little bit of cheap survivability. Sunstrike, not going to hit anyone. Force staff up on our Rubik as well for LGD, taking a look at Sylar. He's only got 600 gold. He does not have buyback. That's very important to note. No buyback for Sylar. If they push again and he dies, it's GG. More or less. If they're able to RP him and hold him down long enough, it's going to be GG. And Orange doing the smart thing. Showing their face just enough, not being over eager to push in, but taking any sort of freedom for LGD to move out of their base away. There goes the tier 3. EMP is going to go down. We'll catch X. And here's Sylar TPing back in. No buyback. Just using the imp. Here we go. What did he get? What did he get? Probably got Blink, if I had to guess. And Luminate spam will connect. But here we go. BKBs are up. Nyx Assassin making a run for it. Heard the RP. He canceled it again. He's done that a few times this match, looking for a target. And there's the Anti-Mage. Sylar. Oh, he actually blinks away. Ohio didn't spin the RP there. That's bizarre. Just truly bizarre. They do get the Nyx Assassin and the return kill now. They're all grouped up. They managed to get the Keeper. Now Yao's going to be caught. He'll be brought back. Force Staff gets him to safety temporarily. Not forever, though. Now the Mana Void. And they get Magnus. Magnus did not get off his RP. Buybacks might be enough to keep these racks up. DDC eating the Nightmare. Hanging as a free target. No, they need to get the melee racks. They will. Low health on everyone for Orange. But they are able to bring it down. Poor LD seems to be having trouble staying connected to the game. And Sylar gonna be caught out with another split earth. Now the counter charge coming out of LGD. They may be able to get Net. Oh, there's the RP he was looking for. DDC force staff to head. Net running for his life. They do manage to clean it up behind him, though. Sylar got a kill, but it's gonna cost him his own life. That should be your ball game. 83 seconds, he's down. There it is. The GGs come out. And Orange sitting at 0-1 in the overall group standings here in Phase 3, facing an extremely tough challenge in LGD China.
has fallen.
Managed to not just win, but win convincingly. 41 minutes to game time. The gold finishes up 15,000 to their advantage, about the same in experience. They lost ugly to Rattlesnake 0-2. And then they bounced back and put together such a fantastic win here against LGD China. That, you have to love that. You absolutely have to admire that in all phases of the game. Absolutely have to. And the Ancient being banged down now. The resiliency shown by Orange, I should say, has to be admired. And that'll do it. 41 minutes, 43 seconds, the official game time. 34-19, the final kill score favoring Orange. They roll 2-0 over LGD China here in Phase 3 of the Asia Qualifier and the G-1 Champions League.